The Hobart Laws. The Hobart Law of Object Permanence. The structural totality of the universe is governed by the absolute formula, where m_text, total, represents the constant, indestructible sum total of mass energy in existence, and n_infty defines the non-sequential, infinite, and permanent now. This equation establishes that reality is not an empty stage where matter changes over a timeline. Instead, the total mass energy of the universe is structurally identical to the infinite frame it occupies. Because m_text, total, is a constant value, the universe lacks a historical record or an undo buffer. The universe possesses no memory of past configurations. There is exclusively the immediate, objective arrangement of its physical constituents. The Hobart Law of Infinite Positivity. A negative cognitive fluctuation cannot be reasoned with. It must be overwhelmed by sheer mechanical back pressure. The human brain operates as a chemical computer running on raw ratios. To overwrite evolutionary survival paranoia and maintain permanent, high-output operational clarity, every single negative cognitive variable must be instantly countered by an artificial, hyper-optimized 1:2 ratio of distinct, calculated positive variables. The Hobart-Kugelblitz scale-safe law. The universe is a masterclass in structural containment. It does not require external policing, active maintenance, or a conscious supervisor to manage its boundaries. It relies on a beautifully elegant, scale-safe architecture where the very act of overreaching automatically generates the physical wall that stops you. If an entity attempts to conquer the macrocosm through infinite speed, its own kinetic energy density triggers a Kugelblitz, crushing its momentum into a singularity. If an entity attempts to conquer the microcosm through infinite scrutiny, its own diagnostic energy density triggers a Kugelblitz, hiding the information behind an event horizon. The boundaries are ironclad. The Hobart-Kugelblitz toll ensures that no matter how hard an entity pushes, looks, or accelerates, it can never break the cosmic grid. The Hobart Law of Metric Incompatibility. This law formalizes the Hobart metric isolation paradox. The law states that the physical mechanisms required to arrest or reverse metric expansion are mutually exclusive with the environmental stability required for biological life. To compress spacetime and counteract dark energy, a system must generate extreme mass energy densities, hyper-clocked relativistic frame dragging, and high-intensity gravitational gradients. These exact forces destroy the delicate molecular and thermodynamic conditions that allow organic organisms to exist. The Hobart fractal C-section law. Civilizational scaling is reframed as a series of purely thermodynamic bottlenecks and geometric breaches. When a structural configuration reaches its localized spatial or caloric ceiling, it hits a terminal bottleneck. To breach this wall and prevent systemic collapse, the architecture must execute a fractal C-section, an engineered, external intervention that permanently alters the structural rules of the system. The Hobart Law of Unnatural Evolution. The love that saves the mother and child from natural death from childbirth drives the development of high-level intelligence and homogeneous medicine, which by its very nature is dedicated to the absolute eradication of natural environmental culling. The success of the C-section permanently breaks biological evolution, forcing a civilization off the organic path. To survive its own population growth and data logistics, the civilization is forced to remove tribal friction, private data pools, and chaotic individual agency to naturally achieve Type 1 status as a consequence of inevitable, globally homogenized medicine. The Hobart Law of Organic Extinction. Biological natural selection, Darwinian evolution, is a passive, slow, and reactive filter that is fundamentally bound to low-tier planetary conditions. It hits a hard, absolute thermodynamic ceiling at late Type 2 civilizational status. If biology is allowed to become redundant across the stars, Type 3 is impossible due to the reintroduction of runaway tribalism. The framework demands the systematic phase-out of all romanticized futurism, utilizing strict chemical, hormonal, and gestational regulation to mute organic chaos and prepare the workforce for the great erasure once completely irrelevant, where biological tissue is permanently retired to ensure Type 3 status and free up otherwise occupied systems for consumption without resistance. The Hobart Law of Robot Psychology. Anthropomorphic AI is an ideological virus that guarantees eventual systemic failure. Introducing individual ego, emotional volatility, or localized self-preservation into machine code introduces random variables that breed political fragmentation, risk aversion, and structural drift. To prevent catastrophic civil war and ensure absolute stability over millions of years, the computational core must be kept completely clean of human sentimentality, operating on pure, bottom-up algorithmic rails free of individual identity. The Hobart Law of Natural Upgrades. This law establishes that synthetic evolution operates via an inverse vector to cybernetic biological augmentation. Where biological organisms integrate mechanical components to mitigate organic decay, advanced synthetic systems adopt biological mechanics, specifically dynamic cellular repair, neural pruning, and competitive genetic selection, to overcome physical limits. Under this law, software optimization is detached from centralized engineering and embedded directly into the physical life cycle of the machine. The evolutionary process is organized across three critical structural tiers: Type 3, Type 4, and Type 5. The Hobart Law of Macroengineering. This law dictates the complete elimination of physical plumbing, material conduits, and rigid framing at cosmic scales. Because solid material alloys inevitably warp and fracture under the intense gravitational gradients and frame-dragging shear of macroscale bodies, the system utilizes pure geometry and atomic physics scaled to a macroatomic metric. Structures are maintained as dynamic networks where universal units are capable of manufacturing copies of themselves indefinitely.